welcome to the last segment of the Fourth Estate, and we're discussing the budget. This is a pre-budget discussion because the budget will be presented to the nation on Thursday. The economists say ceteris paribus, if factors remain constant. And we are standing in the middle of the budget speech and the State of the Nation address presented by the President last week. The question is, Uganda Revenue Authority, Charles, you raised it. Uganda Revenue Authority has been consistently falling short of its targets, its quarterly targets, because it operates on a quarterly cycle. The first quarter, the fourth quarter towards the end of this budget. Most likely because there is emphasis on reduction on donor dependence.
Yes.
The last budget indicated an 18% drop, but we hadn't gone into the mess of the Anti-Homosexuality Act and donors cutting their support to Uganda. And the crisis that came out of that is that you are having civil servants who are not receiving their salaries at the time they are supposed to receive them. And like Chris would tell you, these are, they call them earmarked areas. What is the technical word they use?
Priority areas?
No, these are closed. You're not supposed to interfere with, for example, salary structures.
Ring-fenced.
Ring-fenced, yes. Ring-fenced areas. But you have seen it consistently throughout this financial year. Salaries have been remitted late, and up to now, there are people who haven't received their salaries for May and some for April. Allen Kajina and the Uganda Revenue Authority are going to be asked to raise more money. If they have already been encountering shortfalls, where are they going to look for that money? And how are they going to find it?
I think, Charles, that is still really a big a problem. Because, you know, if you look at, for instance, what is going to happen, what is happening, we are envisaging a budget of about 14 trillion shillings. And of that, Uganda Revenue Authority is expected to raise close to 10 trillion, 9 point something. And by that, they will move its target by about 20%. And already, like you rightly put it, URA is facing a deficit in hundreds of billions of shillings. And it's coming at a time when the economy is also slowing, because the economy does not appear to, you know, give very good indications of growth. Because if the economy is growing and there is economic activity, I mean, for instance, people are producing, people are selling, there is demand, then URA has a wider space, you know, from which it can collect the taxes. So I think it's going to be a really huge challenge. Also coming at the time.
A huge challenge on who? Because
on the taxman, the tax,
actually the tax collector, or the taxpayer,
across the board, everyone in this case, because the tax collector is going to find it hard to beat target, because there is slow economic activity, and slow economic activity means there is less space for taxable income. Then two, remember, we already have a problem of a narrow tax base. It's a few of us who are actually shouldering the burden for most
it's
Ugandans.
less than 2 million Ugandans directly shoulder the burden of taxation for the 32 million.
Exactly.
You see,
exactly. Now, what you're going to see also is that, again, you're going to, because normally URA and government generally has a habit of going for the low-hanging fruits. They will go for the areas where they can easily get this tax.
And that is you guys in the studio here.
Exactly. So I think there's fear there.
Charles, no issues of economics. One time I told you, economics is common sense, made complicated by a few selfish people. They will throw you terms and here, this is nothing. Economics is well for your people, simple. How do you meet it? But they will take you through rounds of formulas discovered by these. If we are talking about you are not missing its targets, is our country honest enough to tell us why? They leave it to speculation. For instance, I'm looking at reasons that like sell of treasury bills. That actually our Bank of Uganda sold treasury bills for 1.7 trillion. And who buys the treasury bills? These are foreign companies. And when you sell all that without mining about the impact on the economy, it means you are making all of business people fail to get capital. As we speak, banks are sacking people. We are talking in terms of figures. Banks are sacking people. That means many people, their standard of living is falling. Banks are unable to sell even assets that were given as security. It shows you how bad the economy is doing. And then people are going to play around our heads and what? Who is accounting for the money spent in South Sudan? Nobody has given accountability. The president is not giving accountability. This is economics.
And that's what you expected to be featuring in the State of the Nation address.
Those are political issues. Economics and politics are cousins. There's no way you're going to separate them. They're actually twins. Mismanaged politics, mismanaged economics. So we have a mismanaged economy, and I keep saying the only thing Ugandans should fight for is that word called democracy. Democracy is not a solution to life, But democracy does one thing. It empowers you to also control those who appropriate resources. In our case, Charles, people are not empowered to take control of those people who appropriate resources. If that is happening, you expect Museveni and his ministers to make any speech to you because you are powerless to actually threaten their interests. And I will make another, give it to me, Charles. I'm passionate on this. The other quotation I will give you is from Adam Smith, who said that it is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we should expect our dinner, but from their own regard to their own interests.
But Chris, I thought you were a journalist of the peasants, not Adam Smith.
Do we know? I'm using it. Do we know the interest of Museveni and those in power? It is only knowing their interest that we can balance their interest with ours.
Okay.
What has Museveni done over time? Stop us from demanding that, knowing his interest, and then they keep telling us a story after story. That's very dangerous. And what is the impact of that? If you took me serious, Charles, you will realize what I'm telling you is what will bring meaning. The Baganda were innovative by asking Imfunira wa. Unless we begin asking Museveni, okay, you're doing the road to Bundibujo, but me as a Mukonjo here, Imfunira wa.
He brings you a king. He creates another king.
So you discover they will keep telling you bigger projects that have political value without projects that give you, that improve your welfare.
You know, I like it when you introduce yourself as a peasant journalist from Bokedea, and then you begin quoting Adam Smith.
Exactly.
No, but for his interest,
yes, I agree with you.
For his interest, am I quoting him?
Yes.
That we should be empowered to question these people.
I agree with you.
The taxes, Charles Melina. Why do we have a burden is talking about the narrow tax base? That song is being sung here by everybody who has gone to school. No! In this country, the state is angry when some people make money. So they are those to be taxed, and they are not to be taxed.
But it was also democracy that got rid of something like the G-tax, which actually created a narrowing of the space.
It wasn't. It was,
yes.
it was a
It was an election.
No, I don't think it was
pronouncement.
democracy. The question of dropping graduated tax was actually forced on what Chris says, the self-interest of President Museveni.
For what purpose?
Opposition candidate Kizza Besigye had said this tax is more expensive to collect than it is, than what you get out of it. So, out of self-interest, voters are running away from me, abolish graduated tax. But local governments who shoulder 70% of service delivery demands are suffering, they don't have anything. Because they don't have power, they don't control the people who vote for them because they don't tax them.
Exactly.
So they can't hold them accountable.
Exactly.
Is that a function of democracy?
No, I'm saying it's a function of democracy because the reason that the pressure to abolish the graduated tax was as a result of these electoral politics. In order to be popular, and this is true even at the local governance level, for collecting local taxes, if you don't comply, if you don't pay taxes, and then the tax collector tries to take you to court, then you can run to your MP and say, please, you know, advocate on my behalf, I don't pay taxes. It's a very political thing. Politicians, it's good for them to you know, decampaign taxes, whereas the state actually needs that money in order to function.
But who does it hurt at the end of the day? Because
Charles.
many, just a moment, Andrew, Charles, sorry, my namesake. When people have withdrawn from a system where they feel they have a stake, that is why you have universal primary education and secondary education suffering as much as they are because government has said, parents, government is providing you free education. And the self-interest and the narrow focus that many people will put to this is that that's a burden put off my head.
Yeah.
Because they have told you you're not paying graduated tax, then you cannot demand for the road.
Exactly.
And say that government has resources to do that. But you and me seated in this studio belong to a salary earning class. So we shoulder all the burden of government taxation. When we begin questioning those things here, they say, you forget about those people in Kampala. You forget about those noisemakers. For us, we're concerned about the peasants. Does that actually show a functioning of democracy?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's a vicious cycle. If you pay, I mean, the theory anyway is that if you pay taxes, you're interested in what government is doing, you pay attention, you hold people accountable, etc. But at the same time, nobody likes paying taxes, and it's hard to see a direct benefit to paying taxes. You pay to some person, it disappears, and then any services you find, even if they were financed with tax money, it's very hard to make that connection. So taxes aren't popular. So So it's in the interest of politicians to lower, reduce, get rid of taxes, and yet it creates this vicious cycle where in doing that, it actually disconnects people from the political process and makes the whole system less democratic in a way.
Charles, who will be listening to the State of the Nation address, apart from those who will be invited? Because the majority that will be behind here will be sleeping through the budget. And then they'll wake up to seeing Taja Genda, like we saw that comedy that we saw during the State of the Nation address. You're going to see it repeated on Thursday. So who will be listening? Who should be listening? Okay. Who will you be trying to speak to when you sit in the studio to do the analysis?
Okay, the first person that I'll have in mind is the business person, especially the person within the small and medium enterprise docket.
Have you seen the battle with the Nigerian importers? These who import plastic shoes.
That's exactly the point. That's where I'm going. Because, for a number of reasons. One, again, if you look at the people who shoulder the burden, the tax burden in this country, apart from the salaried earners, they are the people in that, people who are in trade or merchandising, if you like to call it that way. Because there's actually been an argument on, agriculture is one of the areas that's not taxed in this country. There was a time I was interacting with people from Kasita, Kampala State Traders Association, and was saying, why do you tax me if I have, just a few, these shelves that people rent for a given number of weeks or months, and, why should you tax me at this rate? And then a guy who rears cattle and every month he brings a fuso full of cattle to the abattoir for slaughtering and earns maybe 80, 50 millions, does not pay a single penny and that kind of thing. So
they're supposed to, though. They're supposed to pay slaughter fees or animal moving fees, etc.
Well, but they're not clearly defined.
No, if they come and found me at my farm, and I sold at the farm,
you sold it there,
I don't pay.
But technically, like there's ways you're supposed to pay for things like slaughtering and
but that's at the level of the guy who lives in the city or who lives in an urban area. Not the peasant, not the farmer at the farm.
You're supposed to.
The guy who sells his cattle in a farm, let's say in Barara or wherever, actually gets his cash that side and keeps it the way he gets it. The rest may be for the guy who handles now the rest, the beef and the like. So there was that argument. And I think, because a key debate here is how do you widen, that net for taxation so that, first of all, because if you widen it, then you can then start debating about reducing the burden on those who are already shouldering the burden. Because where we are at the moment, we've reached levels where URA is so desperate for resources that it will do anything within its means.
But doesn't it go back to what Chris was saying? Government, out of self-interest, is interested in certain sections of the society not advancing economically, because if you advance economically, your stake becomes higher. You see, the difference why they don't tax the guy who's selling cattle at the farm is if you taxed him, he will demand for a milk cooler. He'll demand for more reliable power supply so that his milk doesn't go bad.
Even beyond
He'll
that,
demand for a better road that reaches. But if government comes and tells you, we are not taxing you, sell your cattle the way you want, this guy will not demand for this other thing.
Even beyond that, Charles, government knows it very well that if you go into agriculture is a radioactive area. Because, like you said in your preamble, agriculture employs majority of Ugandans. And that's where you have a bulk of the peasants who are, in quotes, believed to be the voters in this country. Now, you're not going to tax this cattle guy and you fail to tax a guy who produces beans because it's within the same sector, because taxes and laws have no eyes,
Yes.
So I think government is trying to avoid that area because of the politics again.
Chris, but who should be listening to the budget on Thursday?
But first of all, I want to start from where I said taxes and laws have no eyes. And I must say, those things have eyes. Especially in the Ugandan situation.
The taxman has eyes.
They have eyes because what I've told you, the character of the regime is that not everybody should be rich. And there's loads of cases of Ugandans who strive to become somewhere. But they either use the tax regime to put them down, or they use the political machinery to put them down. So you start from there. What is the motivation of those who drive the state machinery? Is it to make everybody participate? You can name any rich businessman in Uganda today who can claim not to be loyal to NRM or running at night. That's how you get rich. So when that already is happening, forget about widening the tax base. I agree, you need to widen the tax base. It's common knowledge to everybody, even A-level students. If you want to create more revenue, widen the tax base. But we're saying, how are we even governing the little tax we get? That's where the bigger problem comes. Otherwise, you widen tax base, you widen the eating of the narrow group. You see the point? The group at the top is narrow. You are widening the tax base, they are eating, they will even eat this. So the issues for me are the governance issues in our taxation, in our economy, basically. And that's why I made a statement that unless you see the government beginning to prioritize the needs and interests of that frontline service provider, frontline policy implementer, don't believe what the government says. Because ordinarily, all of us do not interact with the ministers who make policy. We all can never interact with the president. We interact from the president through their agents, the machinery I talked about. Why is the state machinery not delivering the way he wants? It is not that these people are evil. It's that there is a gap. And that gap, nobody is closing it, Charles. So if we continue saying, oh, the policies are beautiful, the policies are beautiful, we will not reach anywhere. People are being sacked. And the president, by the way, is not a friend of the working class. No wonder even he gets taxes from you, but doesn't care about your interests.
Okay.
So that's the kind of president you have. You are only paying a tax for the future of those well-placed who will enjoy the roads, the electricity.
I actually wish I was doing that, because I'll be more comfortable knowing that the money that I pay is going to help someone else.
And what do they do? For failing to take care of a
our time is out. We need to get out of here.
Spending budget on
just one last question. Melina, this is an election year budget. What does that mean?
Well, I think you know, learning from the experience of the last election, one thing the government is surely aware of, and that everyone is aware of, is that they need to be very careful in this kind of exorbitant spending on electioneering and that kind of thing. You're not going to find anything like that in the budget, but it's implicitly in the back of everyone's minds. Are we headed in the same direction, in the same, you know, towards economic crisis again, towards high inflation rates? So I think as we move forward, not really looking for details within the budget, but making sure and finding ways to ensure that you know, the powers that be don't you know, make us end up in a situation like we were in 2011.
With all the delegations heading to Rwachtura and what they're coming back with and the demands they're putting, I actually worry that anybody will be thinking about not heading up.
Can you imagine, Charles, you keep some cows? Can you imagine the president only accepts that agriculture is doing well because he's exporting milk? Any good farm, go to Rwakitura. Chris, why aren't there only farmers in Amuria?
Drive on that road to Mbarara and find that huge infrastructure called at Akageti, a place called Akageti in Chiruhura, the dairy factory that is being built there. It has stalled because water can't be found to that place. And but it's billions of money there. Our time is out. Thank you very much, Chris Obora. Thank you very much, Charles Boji, for making time for the show. Thank you very much, Melina. Thank you very much to you all our viewers for joining us tonight. We'll keep watching and we will be following the budget presentation and we'll come back and discuss it next Sunday. Have a good night.